This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Well, the New York Knicks lost to the Philadelphia 76ers 125-109. And what I think most of us expected was going to be a loss for the New York Knicks. And indeed, it was, ladies and gentlemen. The game started off okay. The Knicks were right there. As a matter of fact, the Knicks were in the game up until 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, when, as expected, it starts to crumble. That late game execution, ladies and gentlemen, from the New York Knicks, they just can't do it in the late game. I don't know. Listen, you saw some good things out there from the New York Knicks, but they just couldn't get it done. You know what I mean? And I know Mitch fouled out. Jericho Sims fouled out. I don't think that would have changed anything with this game. I think the Knicks were going to lose this game no matter what. Just too much firepower from the Philadelphia 76ers. James Harden with a triple-double. His first 2 games with the Philadelphia 76ers have been magnificent. Joel Embiid continues to be an MVP. Tyrese Maxey playing at the peak of his power for his young career. Just too much for the New York Knicks to handle, ladies and gentlemen. But, there's some things to talk about, some things that we've seen. So there's a few things to talk about. You see, I got Ron here with me, still Knicks fans. We got Uncle Fulio here. We'll go ahead and break this one down, ladies and gentlemen. Josh, your thoughts on the game. We watched it together, so I think I know your thoughts. And by the way, for those who joined us in the watch-along, it was dope. You know what I'm saying? I think Geraldine was in the watch-along. Gavin was in the watch-along. Who else was in there? Silica Wicked was in there. We had a couple other people stop through just to check out what was going on. So it was pretty dope, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, the next time you can join us if you're one of the members. All right? But it was pretty dope. Anyway, Josh, thoughts on the game, man?
So the game went, salute Sam, salute NBK fan, Ron, still Knicks fans. The game went pretty much how I expected it. Like I said, I think, the Knicks can compete with Philadelphia throughout the course of the game because of the tempo, right? I think they, very similar in their tempo. And you can tell the game was really close. So we cut it from 11 to 7 down to 4, and then we eventually took the lead. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they got 2 MVP caliber players and Joel Embiid and James Harden, and that was the difference in the ball game. Anytime you have both your centers foul out, it's going to be tough. And the Knicks still don't have a point guard. So, I'm not really surprised by this outcome, by this game. It's been the same way the entire season. Right now, I think that the focus should be on playing, Cam, getting him some minutes. McBride, we didn't see him tonight. So, something with with Tibbs, I don't know what the issue is there with McBride, but right now I'm looking forward to the offseason and the draft. I'm going to keep watching these games, but I'm looking forward to the offseason.
I mean, right now with these games, I'm really looking at ideas and thoughts for next season. Because I don't feel like the Knicks they just don't have it in them to make any kind of a run towards the play-in. So I'm really looking at just the development of players for next year. You know what I'm saying? RJ Barrett, what RJ Barrett is able to do, how he plays, his mindset going into the remainder of these games, et cetera, et cetera. Ron?
Yeah, I'm echoing the same sentiments. Salute to Sim, salute to Josh, definitely salute to the chat. I feel like I saw some good things from the game, and it's nice to see them trying to do some different things. It's nice to see Tibbs trying to give us a little bit more of a different look with the players. He's got to use Cam because he doesn't have Grimes, and it's nice to see Jericho out there, even though he fouled out, but he had some good rebounds, 10 rebounds in that time. The only thing I would really like to see them work on, and I don't know why it just keeps happening. For some reason, when other guys get going on the team, Julius can't get his stuff going. Like, he did a lot. He was close to having a triple-double as far as his production, but his points, like, as far as him getting his offensive game going, when other guys got it going, he's just got to figure out a way to kind of work with them. I don't know what's that about.
I don't know. I don't know, because it's not like he's not getting the touches. I just think, Julius Randle's been off all season long. He's been inefficient all season, and I don't know if he's just been inefficient. What did he shoot today? At one point, he was efficient from the field. He was like 3 for 6, which is not a lot of shots, but, he was efficient in that manner. He ended the game 4 for 13, 30% from the field. 1 for 4 from the 3-point line. He had 16 points because he went to the line. He shot, and he was 7 for 12 from the free throw line, which is not good. That's 58%. Right? But he just hasn't been able to get any kind of a good rhythm going all season long. RJ Barrett had 24 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. Shot 41% from the field. Wasn't really accurate from 3. It's 0 for 3 from the 3-point line, but, all around, he had a decent game. Evan Fournier, 24 points, 2 rebounds. Emmanuel Quickley had 21 points, 5 rebounds. Jericho Sims, he didn't have any points, but he did have 10 rebounds on the night. Him and Julius Randle led the team in rebounding. Mitchell Robinson, not a good game, 6 points, 4 rebounds, fouled out. Jericho Sims also fouled out. I don't know. What do you think it is, Josh? Julius Randle. When someone else has it going, why can't he get going? I mean, we had 3 people in double digits, just not enough. You needed Julius Randle to, at some stretch of the game, get something going.
Sam, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to speculate on what the reason is why he can't get his shot going or why he can't do anything like that. But, what I would like to see, and I've been asking for this for the entire season, is Julius Randle get lower down in the paint and try to get some easier buckets and stop settling for jump shots and, stop trying to post up way out by the 3-point line. Go deeper. He's such a strong guy and athletic guy. He can be able to get some points inside. But, too often he's, stuck out on the 3-point line, trying to be that much of a perimeter player. And I think once he gets back to doing that, I think it'll be better off for him. But for some reason, he just doesn't want to, or Tibbs doesn't want to tell him to get down in the paint. And that's pretty much what you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? And even when he played center, he came in the second half. He played some center in the first half. In the second half, he was forced to play center. And immediately, though, he got the ball deep in the paint, kicked it out to Emmanuel Quickley knocked down the 3. Right? Julius Randle can be a threat inside in the paint when he's playing inside because he's a bull down there. You know what I mean? I don't know why he's not, especially when he has to play center, consistently going deeper in the paint. Everything, not everything, but a lot of the things that the Knicks do on the offensive side is a mystery this season.
Right.
In the way that they do things. A lot of it is a mystery. But let's go down. We'll talk about each player. We talked about Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. How'd you feel about RJ Barrett and his performance today?
I like the fact that he's continuing to remain aggressive. I like that his mentality. I mean, you can just tell, like, development. And people want to talk about, RJ Barrett and what the Knicks are not doing with him. But what I see is a definite growth in the mentality and the approach to the game. And he obviously has that. You can tell it's a different way. The teammates are now looking at him. They're starting to respect him more. Opposing defenses are starting to respect him more. And outside of the stat sheet, that's what I'm really looking for is for RJ. And he's continuing to do that. And I'm happy that that's the direction that he's going in. So I'm not upset with RJ or anything like that for his shooting numbers or what have you. Obviously, when you're being guarded by Matisse Thybulle, it's going to be tough to score no matter what. But just with the approach to the game, I think all of that stuff, is going to continue to get better over time. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Ron?
Agreed. I think that, I really like the way RJ is playing. I like his aggression. And I like the fact that he feels like he's a big part of the offense, and him doing well translates to the Knicks playing better basketball, even if they're going up against teams where it's a struggle and they may not be able to win because of other factors. I do like the fact that his game is definitely ascending and he's doing more out there. I don't like the fact that I kind of feel like the Knicks were a little lost in what they were trying to do offensively, and I think they kind of went away from RJ in that fourth quarter, or at least they didn't really get him involved as much as I think they should have, because I think the Knicks feed off of that. At least lately, they feed off of that energy as well as with Randle. I just think those are the two guys you should try to feature and play off of, right? And then as those guys get double teamed or create mismatches, then you kick the ball around to guys like Fournier and you make better opportunities for those guys. I think maybe part of the issue there was we kind of fed off of Quickley a little bit too much, even though he had it going. But I just think overall it affects what's going on offensively for all the other guys. And I think they need to stay in the flow of the game. But I love what I saw from RJ.
Yeah, Quickley took 8 shots in the fourth quarter. He was 3 for 8 from the field. I mean, RJ was 4 for 6 from the field in the fourth quarter. It was really only those two guys scoring. Obi, early in the quarter, he had 2 buckets early in the quarter, but it was really Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, scoring, getting shots. Randle took 3 shots and missed 3 shots in the fourth quarter. It was really RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. What I did like is from the beginning of the game, you seen the ball was in RJ's hands, running a little bit of point guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing some facilitation from the right off the tip from the beginning of the game. The first 2-3 possessions, the ball was in RJ's hands, to make something happen. And I think a lot of times in the first half, the ball was in RJ's hands, letting him bring the ball up, letting him facilitate. Julius was off the ball. Alec Burks was off the ball. And we were talking about it while we were doing the watch along. If you're going to work to have RJ be that primary ball handler, then you're better off, obviously, Quentin Grimes isn't here, but when he does get back, and if he does get back this season and he's able to play, which he's going to be reevaluated in a couple of weeks, it's probably better to have someone like Quentin Grimes out there instead of Alec Burks if you're going to have RJ Barrett facilitate that offense. Because now you can have Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes spread the floor a little bit more to allow RJ Barrett some maneuverability in the lane. You know what I mean? And then you got 2 3-point shooters to kick it out to. But that was a nice little wrinkle from the beginning of the game that I seen that I did like. With RJ Barrett handling the ball, seeing over top of the defense, and making some decisions to initiate the offense. And we'll see if it's something that Tom Thibodeau works in a little bit more. Then obviously with players out, you've seen the rotation, the difference in rotation. RJ would go out the game at about 6 minutes, and then he'd come back in the top of the second quarter. Same thing in the second half. Went out about 6 minutes into the third quarter, and then he came back in to play the entire fourth quarter. So, a couple little things that Tom Thibodeau is forced to do to tinker with the lineup a little bit. But, RJ Barrett, is playing good basketball. I'm anxious to see if Tom Thibodeau will continue to, grow that facilitation piece with RJ Barrett. You know what I mean? Uncle Fulio, what do you think? Do you think this was just, we're going to do it today because we think the matchups work for us in that way? Or do you think it's something that Tom Thibodeau is trying to ease into the offense?
Sim, I think it's neither. I think RJ Barrett has always been a good facilitator. I think he's always been that. But now with his aggressiveness, that's allowing him to, teams to focus in on him a little bit more. The double teams, the extra bodies coming. I think it's much easier for RJ Barrett to make that play now. And that's why you're seeing it now. And on top of that, the Knicks just don't have a point guard out there on the floor. So, naturally, it's just going to happen that way. But I think RJ Barrett has always had that. I don't think it's something new that Tibbs is emphasizing for RJ to do. I just think that because of the situation and us not having a point guard out there on the floor, it's just going to happen that way. So I hope it continues. I hope it definitely continues.
Well, I agree that he's always had that. I don't think it's something that, he just all of a sudden had, but it has to be something that the coach feels confident in letting you do more frequently in a way that the coach is saying, all right, maybe this can work, especially since the Knicks don't have a real point guard out there. You know what I mean? I do think it's something we're going to see more often because we haven't seen it a lot every once in a while, but you hadn't seen it a lot where RJ Barrett is really that primary ball handler. We're seeing it on more and more possessions, though. Ron, do you think it's something that we see more of going forward?
I hope so. And I think we should. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I've been saying that I wanted to see more of all year long. I know that RJ gets his touches, so he's definitely a part of the offense. I just wanted him to be able to have the ball in different spots in the middle of the court so he could see, around the court and make better decisions. He could be more aggressive from that spot than on the wings. And I think even though RJ is not perfect. He makes some mistakes that he can even point to and say, I don't know what I was thinking. Some of his passes are a little wild, but I think overall he's a better facilitator than maybe Julius is, especially in moments where the game it's flowing for him. I think he sees things well, but he's still got some stuff that he needs to work on because he's not perfect, especially down the stretch. I think not even talking about the Philadelphia game, but the game prior to that against Miami, both Julius and he made some terrible passes in the fourth quarter. So, but I still think I like it. And I think it gets him, involved in the game. He gets juiced up. And I think being a part of that mix and facilitating helps him offensively too. I just feel like he feeds off of it, just like Randle. I think Randle feeds off of that too when he does it.
Yeah. And I see Danielle, hopefully I said his name correctly in the chat, say, people are backtracking. I don't think anyone's backtracking, RJ Barrett's mentality is becoming more aggressive for this team. People are going to say, well, he was that at Duke and he always had this, that, the third. But when he came to this team, he didn't have the type of mentality that you're seeing from him now. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. It's about growth and development. You know what I'm saying? So when we see somebody grow, we're going to comment on their growth and development. We're going to do. You know what I'm saying? He didn't always have the mentality. We were talking about it before the game when we were doing the watch along. Actually in the game preview as well about RJ Barrett becoming more of a volume shooter for this team. And if that's something he's growing into, he took 22 shots tonight or today.
22 shots the last game too.
22 shots the last game. So, he's growing and he's developing a more aggressive mindset for this team in particular. That's okay. It takes time to get there. It takes time to get there. Let's talk about Jericho Sims, right? Because Jericho Sims is going to may play a big part on the future of this basketball team. He had 10 rebounds tonight. No points, right? Obviously, he has a big body. He played some decent defense. Are you comfortable if Mitchell Robinson decides to move on from the New York Knicks during the offseason? Are you comfortable with Jericho Sims being your starting center? Ron, I'll start with you.
I'm comfortable with. That's tough. I'm comfortable with Sims being the backup and playing 20 minutes a game, or 18 to 20 minutes a game in that role. I don't know if I want to make him the starting center. I really think the Knicks have to kind of move on from these type of centers that they have, had, with Noel, Mitch. If you're not going to have Mitch anymore, Noel, Mitch, and Sims have similar attributes.
Right.
And in the fact that they can't stretch the floor, they can't really, the offensive game is kind of limited. I would think at this point, the Knicks have to make a concerted effort to go out there and get themselves some type of formidable offensive type center who can play, on the defensive end too, and maybe make that guy their starter if there's somebody out there. And if there isn't, if they get somebody like that can be good off the bench and give you like 15 minutes, then of course you got to make Jericho your starting guy. If you got him on the team, why not? But I would prefer to go with someone else first that can stretch the floor and make that guy the starter and then have Jericho be the bench guy.
All right. Tom. Josh.
Yeah,
Josh.
Josh.
You got the mantle now, brother.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
I got it. So I wouldn't have any issue with that, but I am leaning more towards Jericho Sims still playing in a bench role, getting his 20 minutes per game, something like that. If Mitchell Robinson doesn't want to resign here, I think about it. I think at Jericho Sims at this, at his rookie season, I think he's much more advanced and much more disciplined than Mitch was when Mitch came in. Right, Mitch was a lot more, much more raw. And don't get me wrong, Sims is still raw too. But at this point right now, Sims is a little bit more developed than what Mitchell was when he first came in. So I have no issue with I wouldn't have any problem with him starting. But I think he still needs a little bit more seasoning. I will have him come off the bench 20 minutes a game, like Ron said, and then let's see if we can find another center somewhere, out there in the offseason if Mitch decides to walk.
Yeah,
or if Noel wants to stick around, if we can, I guess, start him, but he got to be healthy. So
well, Noel is probably gonna be here. He's got a contract. You know what I mean? Unless the Knicks trade him, he's got a contract. But Jericho Sims, it makes sense with what you're saying though, because Jericho Sims, 4 years of college basketball. You know what I mean? Right. So he's had a little bit more coaching. About how to handle different types of defensive coverages, etc. He's 23 years old. Mitchell Robinson is also 23 years old. So while he's new to the NBA in age, he's the same age as Mitchell Robinson. Both players still have a lot to go as far as their development is concerned. I wouldn't be comfortable with Jericho Sims being the starting center. I'm not comfortable with it yet. Obviously, it's clear that Tom Thibodeau is going to rock with Jericho Sims for the remainder of the season as the backup center. Okay. Nerlens Noel has plantar fasciitis at the moment. We'll see, if that clears up, if he gets out there on the floor. I don't know. But we'll get to see a lot from Jericho Sims. And he's going to get a chance to get a little bit more comfortable with the speed of the NBA game, the strength of the NBA game, recognizing different coverages, how to defend those, how to defend in those coverages, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll get to see a lot more from him and what he learns down the stretch of the season, and it'll tell you a story about where he is coming into next season. At the moment, I'm not comfortable with him being the starting center. I agree with you, Ron. I think the Knicks need to move on from these type of centers. You have three of the same exact center for the most part. And I don't want to say move on from it. If Mitch, if they can come to an agreement with Mitchell Robinson, I'm for it. But you got to have one of those stretch centers, a guy that can knock down a mid-range shot, a guy that can shoot the ball from three. Got to find one of those guys somewhere, which poses a dilemma for the New York Knicks. If the front office and Tom Thibodeau is thinking the same way, it poses a dilemma because you got Jericho Sims and you got Nerlens Noel. Right? Those are guys that you have on the team right now and possibly going into next season. I don't know.
At the very least, Sim, they got to figure out a way to, if we're able to keep Mitch, which, I think we all want to see Mitch stay here. If we're able to keep Mitch and then Jericho's coming off the bench, at the very least, they got to figure out a way to move Nerlens and bring in a true 7-foot center who can be like an enforcer type, who can grab rebounds, even if he's another center that can't necessarily stretch the floor, but can score a little bit by the basket. They need somebody who's going to create a presence because, when we get into those situations where we play these teams like a Philadelphia, size is an issue. We need somebody that can bang down there on the boards with these guys. And I think that'll help the team too. Like have some type of physical presence. Everybody's light. These are all light centers. And Sims may not be, stature-wise, he's not light, but he's small. He's 6'8", 6'9". He's not a true 7-footer. So
that's true. He's, he doesn't have the same type of length that a Mitchell Robinson has, when you're going up against those guys. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult situation for the New York Knicks. They're going to have to figure out where they are and what they're doing going forward. Let's talk about Emmanuel Quickley because, Emmanuel Quickley hasn't had many good games this season. He had a good game today. 21 points for Emmanuel Quickley. He had five assists, I think, for Emmanuel Quickley. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 5 rebounds for Emmanuel Quickley. 1 assist. He had it going in the second half. He, really did kind of keep the Knicks in the game for a stretch. Looking at the way the roster is right now, because Miles McBride is not playing, and we'll talk about Miles McBride in a second. It's Emmanuel Quickley, Cam Reddish, Obi Toppin, right? Those are your 3 primary guys coming off the bench. Jericho Sims, 2. 4 primary guys coming off the bench. It's going to be more minutes, more touches for Emmanuel Quickley. Do you think he's going to get into a better rhythm? I'll start with you, Ron. Will he get into a better rhythm having more touches down the stretch of this season?
I think he definitely will get into a better rhythm. I think today's game was, a little bit of an aberration. Aberration? Yeah, you know what I mean. Just because of the fact that I felt like there was an extra added incentive for Quickley to do well out there. He had it going, but I also think going up against Maxey is always a good thing. When you go against, a peer, comes from the same type of situation as you, and he's doing well out there, and you were probably the man before Maxey was. I think that really helps him. It helped him today, and it pushed him to kind of really get into the game. And I think that helps. I think Quickley is an energy guy. He feeds off of that energy. He usually tries to create his own energy. So I think that definitely helped. But I do think repetition and him being used in that fashion and getting those touches will definitely help him. Because today, not only did he look good as far as his shot was falling, but I liked a lot of the shots he was taking. I liked how aggressive he was trying to be in the lane. I still don't like when he does the little Pete Maravich stuff when he's dribbling in a circle, but you know what? It is what it is. It's what he does. So, but yeah, I think so. I think he can get. I think that these last 20 some odd games, I think Quickley will have a much better stretch than he did earlier in the season.
Yeah, Josh.
Sim, listen. As much as we, people were patient with RJ Barrett and patient with, other players, I say fans need to be patient with Emmanuel Quickley. I understand how frustrating it gets sometimes, particularly if he's not shooting great. But the kid is only 22 years old, right? So people want to play the kids and let him work through their mistakes. Let Emmanuel Quickley work through his mistakes and let him grow. That's what everyone wants and is preaching about. So I think Quickley deserves that same courtesy. Right, as a 22-year-old guy, still, second year in the NBA, I'm willing to do that because I still, and I think Tibbs sees a bright future for Emmanuel Quickley. And, I think eventually he's going to start developing and coming into his own as a player, just like RJ is now starting to become. And I think we should give that process a little bit of time.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think you do have to give that process some time. When I look at the type of player that Emmanuel Quickley is, though, I don't see the mentality changing in the way that he plays basketball. Can he get more efficient? Maybe. But I don't see the mentality changing. I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to have to live with him sometimes over dribbling, out on the perimeter, dancing around with the basketball, looking for a way to find his shot. And if you're okay with having that kind of guy coming off your bench as a microwave oven type of guy, then, it is what it is. But I think he can get more efficient. I think his shots can, he can find some more craftiness, but I don't think his mentality is changing. I think this is Emmanuel Quickley. This is how he plays
Sam,
basketball.
I was not talking about his mentality at all. I like the fact that he's aggressive. I like that. He came into the league with that. That's how he wound up taking over Frank and DSJ's spot in the rotation, right? I like that part of it. I'm talking about the development of him, making those mental mistakes, the shot selection, just the IQ out there on the floor. No pun intended, right? I think he's still developing that part of it. Maybe Tibbs needs to kind of reel him in a little bit, or the coaching staff needs to reel him in so he doesn't make as many of those mistakes. But I think, he's still learning how to become that type of player where he's not making as much mistakes. And I think over time it's going to come. Like, I'm willing to be patient with Emmanuel Quickley for that part of it.
Okay. Yeah. I think, it's already worn thin on a lot of people. Next year, it's going to wear thin if he continues to play this style of basketball that's just like erratic. I think it's going to wear thin on even more people. You know what I mean? It's tough to say with Quickley, man. I don't know. The Knicks lose, ladies and gentlemen, 125-109. 28 assists for the Philadelphia 76ers, and you probably should get used to that with the way James Harden is playing right now and the options that he has out there to get the ball to. 21 assists for the Knicks. That's their normal thing. 13 steals for the Philadelphia 76ers, 6 for the Knicks. 5 blocks for the 76ers, 2 for the Knicks. 10 turnovers for the 76ers, 18 for the New York Knicks. And you know what's worse about those 18 turnovers? Teams are beginning to score off of those turnovers. Earlier in the season, the Knicks would turn the ball over. Teams weren't always scoring off of them. Teams are scoring off of those turnovers. Philadelphia, okay, they had 11 points off of turnovers tonight, so it's not as bad as Miami, who had 24 points off of the Knicks' 18 turnovers. But, you turn the ball over, and then now teams are scoring off those turnovers. You're putting yourself in a bad situation, putting yourself in trouble. The Knicks are turning the ball over a lot. 18 turnovers again tonight or today against the Philadelphia 76ers. The Knicks, 44.7% from the field. Philadelphia, 48.7% from the field. The Knicks only shot 33% from three, 30 for the Philadelphia 76ers. The Knicks, once again, 62.9% from the free throw line. This is an issue that the team, the players, got to fix. The players got to fix this. The Knicks shot 35 free throws today. 35 free throws. They were 22 for 35. Quickley was 8 for 8. Alec Burks 1 for 1. Julius Randle 7 for 12. RJ Barrett 6 for 10. Guys got to knock down free throws because, when you get fouled that many times, and Philadelphia, they went to the line 44 times. They made 39 of those free throws. But if if you go to the line 35 times, just think about the difference in this game if the Knicks make 30 of 35 free throws, which should not be a hard thing for them to do. Really? Just imagine. That's 13 extra points. No, I'm sorry. That's 8 extra points. It doesn't make the Knicks win the game, but you talk about an 8-point game rather than a 6-point game. Maybe the Knicks have a lead earlier. Maybe they actually have a 6-7 point lead at some point in the game. After they took a 1-point lead, maybe, that it changes the game when you can make some free throws. They got to work on that, man. That's got to change somewhere along the line. Somewhere along the line. Points in the paint, Philadelphia had 50, the Knicks 48. The Knicks with 20 second chance points, but a lot of that's because they're just not shooting the ball well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're probably going to get more second chance points. Fast break points, Philadelphia 18, the New York Knicks 11 fast break points on the day.
Yeah. Sam, we were shooting the ball great for the majority. I don't want to say great. We were shooting the ball well from the field for the majority of the game. I think the percentages just went down in the fourth quarter. But for the most part in the game, I think we were close to 48, 49% from the field and like 41, 42% from three for the most part throughout the game. But the fourth quarter, we just weren't able to knock down shots. shots going in and out, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with the Knicks shooting numbers for the most part this game.
Well,
but
in the first half, the Knicks shot 48.8% from the field and 42.9% from the three-point line. In the third quarter, the Knicks were 47% from the field and 40% from the three-point line. Fourth quarter, the quarter of execution. This is when you really got to make shots. The Knicks shot 36% from the field and 11% from the three-point line in the fourth quarter.
There's your ball game.
It's crazy to me that the Knicks have had horrible third quarters most of this year. Like the third quarter has been the third quarter of doom. Now they've somehow fixed that third quarter and they can't do anything in the fourth.
They can't execute.
It's tough.
Execution. You know what I'm saying? That's what it comes down to, execution. And they cannot execute. When teams pick up their defense, when other teams feel the pressure, their players step up. When the Knicks start to feel that pressure, they can't handle it, seems like. The team can't handle it. Crunch time, late game execution is a big problem for this basketball team. Big problem for this team. So let's get to it. We talked about Quickley. Let's get to Deuce, right? Because he hasn't, given the lack of personnel, he's still not out there on the floor. Ron, is there something that you think Tom Thibodeau doesn't like about his play, or what?
Well, yesterday on my show, I was kind of taking a look at Deuce's one of his highlights from one of the most recent G League games. He had like 23 points and 9 assists. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to see, because you don't really have NBA game tape to look at Deuce and see what he's doing and how he's playing, except for the G League. So I was looking at and the only thing I could see when you're watching Deuce is that he's very slow and methodical in how he plays the position. He doesn't push, he doesn't advance. We know he struggles with a first step and kind of getting into the lane and penetrating. But it's also, if you just look at how he plays, he just seems to take his time with that stuff. And maybe it's part of the reason why he doesn't turn over the ball that much, because he's more calculated in what he's doing, which I don't see that being a bad thing. But maybe Tibbs just wants somebody who can push the pace more, and he feels like Deuce is not there yet. But my only issue with that, at least I'm not saying, I'm just speculating. My only issue with that is the Knicks are one of the worst teams in pace right now. So what's the difference? You get a guy like Deuce out there in the court, at least he takes care of the basketball. At least he does find the open guy, and he gets you steals. I mean, he was averaging 3 steals a game in the G League in the past 5 games. The point is, he gets in lanes and he might create other opportunities for you, especially when you're struggling, to get stops. But I can see that he sees that Deuce still he's got a way to go as far as being able to control a game and orchestrate the offense.
Yeah,
I don't know why I wouldn't play him at all, though. That I don't understand.
Right. No, I get that, and I agree. He does. Have a ways to go, but so does Emmanuel Quickley. You know what I mean?
True. True.
Josh, and I see someone say in the chat that we only talk about offense. That's entirely not true. It's entirely not true. So, maybe you just joined us today. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's not true. We talk about defense as well. But anyway, go ahead, Josh. We're talking about Deuce, who we know is probably going to play good defense. So we're trying to find out why else is he on the floor?
Yes, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Thibodeau's mind. We obviously are not there. We don't see what's going on. I think eventually Deuce will get a shot. But I just don't know why, particularly in this current situation with all the injuries and stuff like that, that he's not getting, at least some time. You know what I mean? Like even spot minutes here and there, and we don't have a point guard, right? So I just don't understand it. But we're not in practice, so I can't really, I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's one thing, right? We're not in practice, so we don't know. But, at this point, with there being a spot open in that second unit, you would think that he'd say, hey, let's go ahead and let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Let's do it. Let's put him out there. Cam Reddish. I thought he had a decent first half. In the second half, he didn't play as much as I thought. Right? Cam Reddish ended up playing for the game 16 minutes. He played 10 of those minutes in the first half. I would have liked to see him more in the second half. I thought he gave us some good minutes. I thought he did well defensively. You know, he even came in when Tom Thibodeau switched it over to small ball. He came in instead of Obi Toppin. Any thoughts at all? Josh, I'll start with you.
So when we had this conversation before, and I mentioned it during the watch along, and we were talking about, you know, the acquisition of Cam Reddish, you know, who's going to lose minutes, and I was the first one to say Obi Toppin, right? Because Obi Toppin wasn't playing well at the time, and I just don't think that, you know, Obi, I just thought that Obi will be the first man out, and we've seen, you know, when we go to small ball, Tibbs is, you know, going to go with Reddish in there at the 4. I think he creates some matchup problems. Probably not today, but, you know, in some situations, you know, he's going to be a matchup problem for the person that's going to be guarding him, right? And we know he's long, he's athletic, he can score, really natural scoring ability. So I just think, you know, Reddish is going to continue to get some time, particularly now with the guys being hurt. We've seen him out there, and I think he's going to play a lot more, and we'll see if, you know, how it's going to work going into next season.
All right. Well, in the second half, though, he played Obi in that small ball lineup instead of Reddish. You know, and we'll see. I'd like to see his minutes get up to 20, 25 minutes a game. You know what I mean? He's gonna need to have a breakout game, though. He's gonna need to have a breakout game, and then Tom say, "Oh, okay, this is what he could do." Ron?
Yeah, I agree. He needs those consistent minutes, and he definitely needs to show what he can really do on the court for Tom to buy in. For the fans to buy in, because, you know, the fans have turned as well. Like, a lot of fans thought, oh, we're bringing in somebody who could really ball out here. Lately, you know, I know some of the shots that Cam takes are a little wild, erratic, but that's part of his game too. As Sim mentioned the last time around when we talked about this, it's just that I think he need just like any player, you got to develop a rhythm. You got to be featured at some point. Doesn't mean you're the focal point of the offense going forward, but you got to be featured at some point. And Cam still finds himself stuck in the corner, guys overlooking him. And the more sometimes you see even his homeboy, RJ, he gets aggressive to the rack. He's not like he's not looking for Cam, but he's going to take the best opportunity. My job is to make something happen. I'm getting to the hole, and I'm rather get to the hole and get an easy 2, or at least try to get an easy 2 or get fouled, than kick it out to the corner for a 3. I understand that mentality. I just think they have to figure out a way, and this goes back to coaching, and I'm not saying it's necessarily all on Tibbs, but it's on the coaching staff as a whole. They got to figure out better ways for their guys in this team to get basket opportunities, whether it be back screens, cuts, all this other stuff. They got to figure out ways to do this to get guys involved in the game.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, I just want to add to that because, I'm going to be fair about this. The same flack that I was giving RJ, I'm going to put it on Cam Reddish now, right? We all know Cam Reddish has, you know, natural scoring ability. I think everyone on the team knows that. I think Tibbs knows that, but you got to want it. And sometimes a little bit of opportunity that you have to be able to take charge and take over. I'm not saying shoot the ball like a nut, right? I'm saying, you know, the opportunity that you have out there, you got to be aggressive with the basketball, go to the hole, make some things happen. And so far, we have not seen Cam do that. I'm not saying he won't. Right? I don't think Cam Reddish is a bust. I don't know whoever said that in the chat. That's ridiculous. But I need to see a more aggressive Cam Reddish. I need to see more of his scoring ability front and center. Right? Now, that can come multiple ways. The coach can put him in that position, but if he's not, you know, the little bit of time that he is getting on the floor when he does have the ball in his hands, that's what I want to see. So I'm not just putting everything on RJ Barrett. I'm putting it on Cam Reddish as well. Be aggressive.
Yeah. Right. And I sorry, I just wanted to say one thing, Sim. The other thing is, you know, it's tough to really evaluate and look at any of these players because I still feel like all of these players are sorely being underutilized and undervalued because they don't have a true point guard to help them get their game open. And say what you will about Rayford Trae Young, he's a point guard, and Cam benefited from him being around him. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. You know, I wonder in the second half if Tom Thibodeau took Cam out and said, you know what? No, I don't know. You remember the one play? No, that was No, that was in the first half. Never mind. See? Never mind. I was talking about the play where him and Randle both went for the basketball.
Right.
Yeah, when they both cut
But
at the
that
same
was
time.
that was in the first half. I don't know. Maybe it was just circumstances that Cam didn't play more in the second half. But I do agree. He's got to be a little bit more aggressive. You're playing with a new team. He's still kind of new to the team. Still figuring some things out. So maybe that comes along with time. I see people in the chat too saying he's a bust and so on and so forth. This is, year 3. Get a brother a little bit of time to play some basketball, if you will. You know what I mean? We've seen games, obviously, with Atlanta where he's able to, go off for 30 points and, he had a good stretch of basketball. Got to give it some time and see what happens there. Now.
Yeah. How about? Oh no, I was gonna say, how about you put Cam in a position for a pick and roll? Because Cam is a different guy in a pick and roll because he can pick and pop, but he's got the dribble handle to break down that guy off of the screen and get to the rim. Like give Cam those opportunities.
Natural scoring ability. Yeah,
right.
He does. He does. Now, somebody was complaining that we didn't talk enough about defense. Let's talk about the Knicks defense tonight or today, because there were a lot of mishaps on the defensive side. We've seen a lot of Philadelphia forays to the basket from cutting and good screening, right? Where the Knicks would get confused on who's supposed to be guarding the guy cutting to the basket. Off-ball screens as well as on-ball screens, and it was frustrating. You know what I mean? We've seen several times. Obviously, the pick and roll with James Harden and Joel Embiid is going to be killer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But what did we notice? Nobody on the backside, coming to help out when that screen takes place. So you got Joel Embiid setting a screen for James Harden. James Harden is coming off the screen. So now Evan Fournier's trailing the play a little bit. Mitchell Robinson is hedging over. There should be somebody else popping over to stop Joel Embiid from getting that pass, force James Harden to have to skip it. Several times, though, a bunch of times, it's not there. It's non-existent. You know what I mean? So Joel Embiid gets a roll to the basket, or James Harden is going to get the layup at the basket, right? A lot of off-ball cutting where guys are confused who's supposed to get the cutter after the screen takes place. You know what I mean? So a lot of breakdowns in the defense today for the New York Knicks in that area. Now, for a good portion of time, the Knicks were able to survive because they were scoring and shooting well. In the fourth quarter, when Philadelphia continues to score from breaking down the defense, the Knicks can't score, and it makes it that much more obvious that these things are happening, especially down the stretch. Those last 3 minutes were just atrocious, offensively and defensively. You know what I mean? As the season wears on, are you afraid that it's going to look even worse out there? As the team starts to realize the season is done. We're 11 games under 500, 13, 14, 15 games under 500. The season is done. Is the defense going to look even worse? Because that right there will lead to Tom Thibodeau being, with flames under his butt. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Fried Tibbs.
Yeah. That right there, if that happens during the end of the season, and that could happen, because now you know that the team, their spirit is just not in it. It could get really, really ugly and really, really bad. Are you afraid, Josh, that it'll happen down the stretch of the season?
Cut some bacon off his back. No. Yes, Tim. I mean, listen, the team, what was it? You said they lost 9 of the last 10 games, right? Or 8 out of the last 10 games. You combine that with the fact how we look defensively, which is supposed to be a tip staple. Absolutely. I'm definitely concerned about that. That's something that we definitely should look forward to. And I'll say it again. I said it before and I'll say it again. If there's any type of disagreement between the front office and Tibbs, the front office can say, you lost 9 out of your last 10 games. The defense, which is supposed to be a staple under your leadership, has now regressed, and that's grounds for him to get fired, right? So I think it's definitely a concern. If I'm Tom Thibodeau, I am concerned about that. And we just gotta be able to snap out of it. But yes, I'm absolutely concerned about that. No question.
Ron, you concerned about that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think that's definitely a very high possibility that could happen because we're very close to it now. And once we're out of it and we know we're not playing for anything, come on, we complain about certain players showing effort now when the games mean something.
Right.
Like imagine when they don't mean anything. The only thing that could kind of save some of that is if he really goes heavy with the youth. You get McBride in there, and all the young players are playing and they really want to stake their claim and show why they should be a part of this team and rotational going forward into the next year. Maybe he lights a fire under them and say, listen, you want to be out here, you want to be a part of this team going forward, I need to use y'all, show me what you got. Maybe he issues a challenge to the young guys, maybe he'll get something out of them.
But Ron, and we're still having this conversation about Tibbs playing the young players. The only person that's not playing is McBride. Now, even with the injury to Grimes, Cam Reddish now has a bigger role, a little bit of a bigger role now, right? The only person we're talking about is McBride. So I think we're already at that point where the young guys are playing without McBride, obviously. So I think this is the time for them to show and be aggressive and do everything that they need to do.
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. And I'm saying, really, technically, if you want to say that that's what's going on now, it's the last two games. But these last two games are against, like, the toughest competition in the league, so it's kind of a bad way to look at them and what they can do. But going forward, as you continue into the schedule, I think that's what I'm saying. Like, once you know that you're actually eliminated, I think you might see a little less Julius. Maybe he won't be playing 30, 40 minutes. Maybe you get him around 25 minutes just to have him out there playing. I mean, I wouldn't want to get him hurt. You're going to need him next season unless you trade him. So I'm just saying, like, at that point, I would issue a challenge to my young guys that I am playing to show me what you got and really focus in on the defensive end. The offense stuff, that can come, but I want to see their aggressiveness on the defensive end as well, because that's what Tibbs likes.
Yeah, Tibbs he's going to have to use the remainder of the season as culture building. And I know people are going to say, well, if you're losing, how is it culture building? You're still building. You're still building what you're supposed to stand for. What I mean? Right. You can look at years that Eric Spoelstra, when Miami wasn't good, he was still building what the team stood for, and it's going to be on Tom Thibodeau to try to build that, continue to build that, what the team stands for, and this is going to be a challenge. You're coming down the stretch of the season, the games aren't meaning anything. How do you make sure your veterans, everyone is approaching the game serious and not just taking a night off, having the young guys out there with, the distribution of minutes, flipping it around would help with that in that regard. You know what I mean? But you still got to hold guys accountable if they're not coming out there and playing hard. At some point, if it gets to that, not if, it's already at that point, you probably got to sit with the team and say, listen, I know we're at this point where this season is gone, this is done, but we're still trying to build something, and I need you to come out with that kind of a mindset, right? That we're still trying to build something for the future, because you never know. You could hit a stretch at the end of the season where you start really, really playing well, and then it goes over into the next season. You know what I'm saying? Look at the Phoenix Suns a couple years ago, right, when they were in the bubble. And what happened? It rolled right into the next season. They brought in Chris Paul and kept it rolling.
Finals.
Yeah.
So I do have a question, because I think P. Ramos is talking about it right now in the chat in regards to if we fire Tibbs at the end of the season. I know this is a little bit premature, but maybe instead of hiring a whole outside voice to come in and lead the team, maybe someone, if they want to move on from Thibodeau, maybe someone already on the coaching staff takes the spot. So instead of it being like a whole entire culture change, you still have some of those same people in place, but you just put another man in position to coach the team. I think that's something that we should, probably look at in the offseason. If they honestly want to move on from Tibbs, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea.
I mean, if they wanted to move on from Tibbs, I think that would be on the table, isn't it? Without a doubt. That would definitely be on the table. I just don't think
because I'm sorry. 'Cause if you bring someone from the outside, then you gotta get a whole new coaching staff, whole new coaching philosophy, and you know, all that stuff.
Right, all that stuff. You know, everything starts over. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it could be a good and a bad thing, right? You know, things start over. All of a sudden, the players are at attention. Like, oh snap, everything is different. You know, it gets their focus. You know, things start over, and players are like, this is, you know, here we go again. You know, especially someone like RJ, who's been through how many different coaches already?
3.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been 3? 2.
Tibbs and Fizdale.
Just Tibbs and Fizdale, right? Just Tibbs and Fizdale. Yeah. So he's been in the league 3 seasons, and he's already had 2 coaches.
Oh, Mike Miller.
Yes. Yeah, he had Mike Miller for half a season. You know, I'm gonna tell you what, you know, someone like RJ Barrett, if I'm RJ Barrett and this happens, I'm already looking like, damn, you know, I've been in the league for 3 seasons and I have 3 coaches. Now I'm going on my 4th coach in 4 seasons. I'm not happy about that. I wouldn't be happy about that at all.
Actually, Sim, I think what Josh said, I would prefer if they did fire Thibodeau, if they didn't just go out and bring in a new coach. I prefer if they looked at it differently and said, let's give Johnny Bryant a chance, see what he's about. Because I think, you know, as much as I don't know how good that is, I think Johnny Bryant has a lot to do with what's going on offense for this team. I'd like to see him do that, but what I would think a smart move is to go out there and bring in a defensive coach, some defensive guru type of coach who, you know, has good defensive principles, maybe different principles than what Thibodeau has instilled. Because part of my issue with Tibbs is I think that some of his defensive principles don't fit today's NBA, especially with his 3-point closeout style. Right. I think it's tough because a lot of these teams hit threes now. So you can't just count on them missing these long shots. So I'd be interested to see Johnny Bryant get the reins and then bring in a defensive coach who has a different defensive philosophy and see where they can go from there.
Yeah. You know, I think they at least give Tibbs 1 more season.
Maybe.
I think they do. I think they at least give him 1 more season, you know, to see if, you know, he's able to turn it around, if he's able to, you know, look at the team and make the necessary changements and adjustments. You know, you have a good season, you have a bad season. I think it's only fair you give a season to see, does it level out? You know what I'm saying? And you get who this team really is. You know what I mean? Obviously, if it continues to be bad, then you might say, hey, you know, we got to make some changes. But I do think you got to look at and keep in mind guys that you, like RJ Barrett, that you know, you got to keep them in mind. You know, and does he get frustrated with having 4 different coaches in 4 seasons?
Right.
You know, if you change the coach. I think that's a legitimate concern. You know, that's one of the reasons I think KP wanted out, because there was no stability. You know, so he wasn't happy either. You know, that's something I think. Who else has been on the team since that time? Mitchell Robinson. He may or may not be here, right? But he's another guy that if he is here next season and the Knicks made a coaching change, which I don't think is going to happen right now, but if they did, would have gone through several different coaches in his time here with the New York Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even Julius Randle would be on his, 4th different coach, because he came the same season as RJ. Even Randle would be on his 4th coach. Yeah, you know, it's a tough decision to make. It's a tough one to make, man. A tough one to make. Savvy, what's popping, bro? How you feeling?
What up, Savvy?
Salute Knicks family. Salute Fulio. Salute Sim. Salute still Knicks fans, yo. My man Ron, I always call you by your channel's name.
Hold on, rewind selector.
It's good to be back on the panel. It's been a hot minute. hell of a show I've been watching since the jump. I just couldn't jump on immediately. But I love what you guys have said about the team. I love this coaching approach that you guys speak of. I just don't know like the intimate details of how the coaching staff was constructed and who was involved in the hiring of who. Is Johnny Bryant and the other assistant coaches Thibodeau hires that he chose for his coaching staff? Or did the GM have something to do with assembling a coaching staff in tandem with Thibodeau? Like, I don't know who's a Tibbs guy and who's not.
I think that the coaching staff, I'm sorry, I think that the front office had a lot to do with the hires of these coaches.
Yeah, I think Dice. I know Dice is I think is a Tibbs guy.
Yes.
Okay, right. So that withstanding, do you somewhat, give him some platitude, being that he did not select his entirely own coaching staff?
I think that he clearly had a say in, guys that came on the coaching staff. I don't think it was just like, hey, Tibbs, here's your guys, here's your coaching staff. I don't think it was like that at all. I think they sat down and had, conversations about it. You know what I mean? And in the front office might say, hey, I like this guy, though. Can we bring this guy on? And Tibbs would be like, okay, all right, cool. I think it was that type of a thing.
And I just to your point, Savvy, I actually think the front office was trying to do Tibbs a favor by bringing in guys that could help take care of things that maybe Tibbs not lacked in, but wasn't strong in per se. And I think Johnny Bryant was definitely a person to bring in who could, relate to the young guys on the team. He's a development type guy. I think that was to help Tibbs's job along the way for maybe guys that maybe he wouldn't target. So I think they were trying to help him.
And maybe he can help us snatch away Donovan Mitchell. But that's a conversation a conversation for a different show. But in regards to coaching and the team itself, Sim, you said something earlier about how the defense took a step back, and I completely agree. And I really miss that defensive grit that we had last season. I feel like most of our success was predicated on defense first and capitalizing on the result. And I think the first thing that we need to start doing, aside from making our free throws better, which is an offensive coaching thing, is to work on the footwork with some of these young guys. Because it was looking like, and I said this in the chat earlier jokingly, but I was being dead serious. There was multiple times where a guy would do a jab step, a pivot, and get all the separation he wanted. Okay, Tyrese did it to Emmanuel Quickley. It happened to Jericho Sims a couple times, and I was just like, I was kind of baffled because I'm like, yo, fam, like these are not even complicated like moves that they're putting on our guys. It happened to RJ once too, and RJ's a good defensive player. And I was just like, yo, listen, like we really need to lock down on this footwork and this discipline that we have on the defensive end of the floor if we're going to make the jump from being, mediocre, middle of the pack team to being able to contend with teams like Philly and like Brooklyn and some of the grittier teams on there. And it even happened with Jericho. Like Jericho, I mean, he did pretty well considering his experience level. That being said, the ball was leaving his feet far too often. And I'm like, that's a recipe for disaster. Mitch had the same problem, and he just was able to sort of get past it. Although we saw what happened to him today. There's clearly levels to this game. I just, if we're going to emphasize a return to our defensive form, I think we could start with just some fundamental stuff that will help us stay out of foul trouble and help us stop letting dudes just drain threes face up like that, because that was ugly.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the Knicks defense really took a step back, Or was the Knicks defense last year a byproduct of such a slow pace? Which means other teams they get less shot attempts at the basket. Obviously, the Knicks get less shot attempts at the basket, but other teams get less shot attempts, which means they're, depending on how they play, their field goal percentage could be lower because they're playing at a slower pace. The Knicks forced them to play at a slower pace. Do you think it's a byproduct of that? And now with the Knicks trying to play a much faster pace, their defensive inefficiencies shine through a little bit more. Obviously, throughout the season, the Knicks have played sometimes good defense, stretches of good defense, stretches of bad defense, right? Do you think last year the consistency in defense had a lot to do with the pace that they played?
I think last year we had less go-to offensive firepower, but we had guys who could at least hang their hat on giving you defensive effort where they couldn't compensate by giving you offense. I think this season, although the pace has increased, I think our roster is shell-shocked not only by certain injuries to certain key players like Derrick Rose and others, like Nerlens as well, but also for the fact that we changed two key positions at the same time, mind you, that were giving us a lot of defensive anchorage, right? In Alfred Payton and Reggie Bullock. If we had kept one and swapped one, it might be a different story. But since we swapped out both of them in an attempt to bring in two replacements who were both offensively minded players who were all, at the same time, defensive liabilities within themselves, it became a situation where they're going to have to outscore the points that they allow on defense. And when we played good defense this season, we played defense by committee and successfully switching and sort of, zoning up on guys as opposed to being able to man up like we did last season.
Yeah. I don't know. Ron, what do you think, man? Because Ron, I actually agree with you when you talk about Thibodeau's defense and it being antiquated or playing against his defense is designed to play against an antiquated offense. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. He's got to change his philosophy in defense because it doesn't work today. Because guys just shoot the ball at too high of a percentage from the 3-point line. You know what I mean? But what do you think about the question that I posed?
Actually, you know what? I was thinking, and when you brought it up, I maybe about 2 months ago, we had a conversation about this, and I mentioned that I was concerned that maybe, because we were talking about pace, and even a lot of the games that we watched, keys to victory was rebounding, pace, different things of that nature. And I was thinking in my head, and I mentioned it, that I don't even know how big Tibbs is actually in on the pace of the game. I think maybe I was wondering if the slower pace kind of helped his guys on the defensive end, because I was worried about the faster pace changing how guys lined up and how effective they were on defense, especially at that time. We had moments where we were questioning people's work ethic a lot. And we were definitely looking at Julius missed assignments and how he was lollygagging up and down the court. And we were pointing fingers at him for his perimeter closeouts and how he was playing on defense. And I remember, because we had even pointing to that's maybe the fact that we didn't have Payton and Bullock. Maybe they covered up for some of Julius's inefficiencies on the defense on the perimeter. So, yeah, I think it could have something to do with it. I think another thing that I look at with regards to the Knicks defense of, up and down, for whatever reason, they can't play both sides of the ball consistently. Like earlier in the season, we had looked at it, didn't seem like it, because I know as the average fan, until you brought it up, Sam, actually, when you put the numbers up and we were comparing the Knicks defense from last year at that time to the Knicks defense this year, and then it was similar. And in some points, it was better. I was shocked because it didn't look that way. But the Knicks were playing pretty good defense, and then they couldn't really score. They wasn't hitting their shots. They were getting open looks they couldn't hit. Now, lately, they've been hitting these shots. They've been playing much better on offense, and now they can't play defense. Right. And I hate to throw it at Tibbs once again, but when I see something like that, these are the same players. I look at coaching. So I don't know what it is. I think, honestly, I do think I know what it is. I think Tibbs is just overusing these players. I think these players are tired. They're playing too many minutes, especially the key players that you need out there that are out there most of the game, and you expect them to come down the stretch. In the fourth quarter, when guys are playing 30-plus minutes and even 40 minutes, it's really tough to get a lot out of these guys when you're depending on 3 or 4, the same guys out there every night.
Let me ask you, is it because of the talent disparity that the Knicks have? Because when you look at Philadelphia, right, they got a light bench now. So Tobias Harris, James Harden, those guys are going to be playing major minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Doc Rivers went short tonight, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. How many people did Doc Rivers play tonight?
9 or 8. I don't know. Did Milton play? It'll be 8 if Milton.
He played 10, but Shake Milton played 6 minutes. Paul Millsap played 11 minutes. Right? So he went kind of short with his bench. His main guys, James Harden, 39 minutes. Joel Embiid played 36 minutes. Right? Our, Julius Randle and RJ Barrett both played 37 minutes for the Knicks.
Right.
Is it the talent disparity? Because a team like Philadelphia, they're gonna play that. They got to play their guys a lot of minutes with a short bench. Is it because we don't have the talent? And at a certain point in time, guys give you diminishing returns while you need to have a deeper bench?
I think that could have something to do with it. Before you go, John, I think that could have something to do with it because I do think that some of these teams' role players, I mean, we've been talking about it all year. Some of these guys that Miami had that they picked up from where they got them have been playing great for them. And they're the bench players. With Philadelphia, watching them today, they didn't get a lot out of Korkmaz and the other guy, but some of these other players have stepped up and played solid. They're not making mistakes. They may not be adding a whole bunch offensively, but they're also not taking away from what the team is trying to do. Because we even saw, in this game, the fact that Philadelphia, it wasn't comfortable, but it turned out to be a comfortable lead. I think Embiid played 39 minutes or so, and Embiid looked gassed a lot throughout this game. Mm-hmm. So you can see how it can affect your team. But then again, Embiid is a special type of player because even looking gassed in the end, in the fourth quarter, you saw he got 3 big blocks down the stretch. Embiid is he's just a warrior. Right. And I don't think every player is in that same type of ilk. So I do think that, it could be a little bit of diminishing returns from our bench players and role players. It's a lot. It's all mixed in there, man.
It has to be that because even when you look at Miami, they basically played a 9-man rotation. Max Struss, when he played against, he played 6 minutes and 51 seconds, right? The next person to play over 20 minutes was Gabe Vincent. He played 23 minutes. Other than that, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero played all of the minutes. Duncan Robinson, he started. He only played 13 minutes and 40 seconds, right?
But that's because he was having trouble scoring. He would have played more minutes,
right?
If he would have been performing better. But I don't think it's appropriate to ever.
Sorry, my bad. But when you look at him, only one other guy played over 20 minutes. Now it's Gabe Vincent. Everybody else, 6 minutes, 16 minutes, 13 minutes, 13 minutes. People always talk about it, but Tom Thibodeau's not the only one that plays his guys that he trusts.
I've been saying this for a long time in regards to Tibbs and the time management and, why don't we get this guy some more minutes? You look around the NBA, it's the same way. The minutes disparity, from player to player, it's the same way all across the league. But to answer your question, Sam, I think it's all of the above. All of the above. I think it's a talent issue. I think pace has something to do with it, but the Knicks still don't have that high of a pace and the defense is still worse than it was last season, right? So, I don't think it's just specifically one particular thing. I think it's all of the above. And, again, like Ron said, it goes back to coaching. I don't think Tibbs does enough to mix it up defensively. I think his defensive schemes are just, outdated, if you want to call it. He doesn't do anything new, anything different. It's straight up man-to-man defense, fight over screens. He doesn't throw any zone defense out there. You see a lot of teams employ zone against the Knicks. I think today would have been, well, probably not today, But Philly's a team, or any similar team that does not shoot the ball that great from three, put some zone out there, play some different coverages.
But not just against the Knicks. Teams are doing it all across the league. And I think what it does when you switch between playing a man, playing a zone a little bit, trap a little bit here, 1 or 2 possessions, play full court, it causes the opposing team to have to think.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you're playing straight up man to man, guys are so good offensively. They don't have to think like that no more to play against a man, right? They can go get a bucket. They know how to do that. But now when you start to throw these different defensive coverages out there, teams have to think a little bit. All right, they're playing this type of zone. Like, for example, in the first half, and I'm about to come to the caller after this, in the first half, R.J. Barrett had the ball on the right side of the floor, right? What did James Harden do? He played him hard to the left. Joel Embiid wasn't paying attention to Mitchell Robinson. Joel Embiid is down on the box. So basically it was like, we're going to dare you to try to penetrate between James Harden and Joel Embiid. So they were kind of in a zone, right? The Knicks had all of their players over on the opposite side of the floor. R.J. Barrett was on the right side of the floor, trying to isolate him to score. Instead, Philly went into the zone type of a defense, right? And he had to get the ball up. You know what I mean? Like, different types of coverages like that are what you need today because guys can score so easily. Just going straight up man-to-man is tough. You know what I mean? So when you when you switch up between a 1-2-2, a 2-3 zone, maybe a little bit of a 1-3 zone every once in a while, you make offenses have to think. Tom Thibodeau doesn't do that. It's just straight up man-to-man.
So does that mean that you're also on the fire Tibbs train?
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm on the train of Leon Rose taking down, here's things that I see and that I'm concerned about. I'm giving this to you. Now, what are you going to do with it? And if you don't start to make some changes with some of these things, or fix it, however you fix it, right? Then now we have to make a decision to do something. I'm all about giving a person a chance to recover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's only fair. You did a really good job one season. You had a bad season. Now let's give you a chance to recover and see where we are. But if I'm Leon Rose, these are things that I'm pointing out. And I'm not going to tell him, do this, do that, do this, do that. I'm going to say, this is what I see about the defense. This is what I feel about it. This is what I feel about the offense. This is why I feel about your distribution of minutes. This is what I feel about how you use players. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm giving it to you. Now it's Tom Thibodeau's responsibility to do something about it. Because this is what my boss sees. You know what I'm saying? Tom Thibodeau may see something different. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, all right. If you don't see what I'm saying, you think there's another way to win games, you better win games. That's how I see it. But I think you got to give a guy a chance to recover. Caller, you're live. Sure. Tell me your name and where you're from.
Hey, it's Kaleem out of North Carolina by way of Staten Island.
What's going on, Kaleem? How you feeling, man?
I'm good. Hey, so, in terms of Tom Thibodeau being like a defensive coach, I looked at the stats and I think we overrate him as a defensive coach in general because when you look back at his time in Minnesota, that team was bottom 3 defense all the time he was there, and he put that team together with his guys.
Except for 1 year.
I just think that you look at Minnesota now, they're top 10 defense, and I think that's because of scheme. I saw a video on the Ringer, I think it was, and they talk about how they basically have a scheme that protects their weaker defenders while at the same time maximizing their strengths. And I think that's the kind of stuff that Tom Thibodeau doesn't really do. Even when he has his guys, his defense doesn't really work. I think last year was kind of an aberration. Our defense is basically designed to gives up open threes, And like last year, people shot 33% against us. And it's like probably an anomaly with all the open threes we give out.
Well, and you know what I think part of it is last year, maybe teams didn't expect that they were going to give up so many open threes. And this year they had it on the scouting report. Be ready to shoot these open threes. You know what I'm saying? And so now it's on your mind. Listen, they're going to give you these open threes. Knock them down. And that's one of the reasons why we say this defense is antiquated, because it's 15 years ago, teams didn't shoot as many threes. Teams didn't shoot at such a high percentage. So it was like, you know what? We'll dare you. We'll give you the open three. We're going to protect it inside. That's an antiquated type of defense. Today, teams are hunting the three-point shot.
Yep.
They're hunting it. And that's why you see differences. People always say, well, a zone lets you shoot the open three. You got to, be able to knock down the three, to break open a zone. But also, a zone can negate a three depending on what type of zone you're playing. If you're playing a matchup 2-3 zone, you still may not be giving up open threes, right? But you're still in a 2-3 zone. If you're playing a 3-2 zone, you still may not be giving up threes on the wing, right? Because you got those wing positions covered, or if you're doing, certain types of traps and you're mixing up the defenses, you can still make it tough for teams to knock down the three while defending on the inside. But Tom Thibodeau's not going to go zone. I've been calling and asking for Tom Thibodeau to play some zone for 2 years. I really have. Every time I turn around, I'm like, why don't he go zone? You can't cover this guy. You can't guard this guy. You're not doing this. Why don't he try zone? He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it.
We need to write a letter to Mark Berman and ask him that in the post game.
Yeah. I haven't heard or seen anybody really ask Tibbs about playing zone in the post game.
Coach Tibbs, why don't you ever play a zone?
Yeah, whatever the game tells you to do. That's what we do.
Oh boy, I can't wait to hear that one again.
That's whatever the game tells you to do. That's what we're gonna do. If the game calls for us to play zone, we'll play some zone. And then you got to have the guys that can do this and do that and such and such and such. I already know the answer that we're gonna get from Tom Thibodeau.
Who?
Sam, but and a little bit of Tibbs' defense on this, and I'm only defending him just a little bit. I'm only giving him a little bit of rope here. I think a good man-to-man defense can work in today's NBA. You just need to have guys who are tough.
Okay.
We don't have no toughness on this roster, right? We don't have any stud defenders outside of Quentin Grimes, but he's still a rookie. But we don't have any stud wing defenders out there, and we don't have any toughness, right? I think last year the Knicks had some toughness, right? I think Reggie Bullock provided us a little bit of switchability on the wing, stuff like that. And we were a little bit more tougher last season. So, I don't know what the difference is this year. I don't know if it's bringing in Fournier or whatever, but we're just not tough at all. And we don't have that one guy that can go out there and knock you on your butt.
I mean, but see, I agree that you can play a tough man-to-man defense. I just think you got to mix it up and not only play man-to-man defense, because teams figure out what you're doing. And players are a lot smarter. Coaches are a lot smarter. They break down the film. They know how to attack your weak spots. You know what I'm saying? So you got to mix it up so that you got to keep the coach coaching on the sideline, right? You got to make the coach have to pick up his clipboard and say, damn, he just did this. Now what am I going to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
You make those assistant coaches have to break out those iPads and figure out what kind of defensive scheme you're in so that they can break it. You got to make coaches have to do that. The Knicks don't. It's pretty much, they know what you're going to do.
And Sam, I hate to keep doing this, man, but I'm going to keep doing it because it seems evident to me. If you're talking about the situation where it's defense, and that's supposed to be Tibbs' strong suit, and he's not as flexible with his defensive strategy and calls, knowing what Josh said points to the point that I'm trying to make. He's not flexible with that, knowing he doesn't have the proper personnel to execute in the way he'd like to see it, and he still don't make the changes. Look at how that's the defensive end of the court. Imagine with the offensive end of the court and playing certain guys in the way he should use them. That's why I'm worried about Tibbs, and that's why I feel like he's got to, hit the road.
I hear you. Kaleem, I know we just jumped in and took over the conversation. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say that, like, even when it comes to like things like defense and having his guys, like, it's not like we don't have guys that can play defense. You know, we have Miles McBride, and he won't even throw him in there just to play defense. I don't even think we need to ask him to run the offense. If we just ask him to play defense and hit open shots, I think that'd still be a benefit.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Right, I agree with you 100%. I don't know. It's tough.
Play Deuce or you're fired.
Gleam, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the call. Appreciate you, Gleam.
Oh, and Sim, I was going to say, remember you had talked about that, Leon Rose and, whoever's in upper management should be writing down whatever it is they see that they don't like that's being orchestrated or not orchestrated out there, and sit down with Tibbs and go over certain things and see his views on it and how we can improve and what's his thoughts. I was going to say it shouldn't just be limited to the defense and stuff that's going on the court. It should also be encompassing of the direction of the team and what the front office sees. Okay, Tibbs, you want this to happen. Would this type of player help you? But if we couldn't get that type of player and we're looking at this guy, would you be comfortable? Will this guy be able to get minutes in your rotation? You got to go over everything, because if he's on board with changing certain things on the defensive end, but then you tell him your philosophy for the team moving forward, and he's not on board with certain players or what your view is, that's a red flag to me too.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, listen, let me get to, we got Gavin from Duval County. We appreciate you, man. Let me get to Tom Thibodeau and his post-game press conference, and then we'll talk to Gavin, see what's going on. This is Tom Thibodeau, ladies and gentlemen.
You were obviously right there with about 7 minutes left. What happened in those final 7 minutes?
Well, I thought, the fourth quarter was pretty tight. We gave up a big, we're small. We had to play small at the end. Jules was battling Embiid, and we gave up crucial offensive rebound that I think they turned it into a three. I think it was 5 points at that point. So, that was a problem. And then the game was called tight, and it was called tight both ways. And so we got to adjust to that. But there's a physicality to it with Embiid, and, Harden is a power guard. So, we can't be reaching in. We have to be disciplined.
The turnovers, it seems like the last 2 games, this one, the last one, a lot of them are unforced.
Yeah, well, they're active with their hands, so, and we have to have an awareness, with that. And some of it is, there's going to be pursuit from behind, and you have to, they don't fall off the court. They're there. So you have to have a vision of, are they pursuing? And then sometimes if a guy's sitting at the elbow, you got to give yourself up. You got to cut and open it up for the next guy. So, that's all part of it. And then just understanding the intensity of the game, what's happening out there.
In that fourth quarter, they had a long stretch where it seemed like there was a foul every other play, and then your offense kind of stalled. Did one thing kind of lead to the other?
Well, it was choppy, so there wasn't a flow to the game, because they shot 40, whatever it was. There's a ton of free throws, and we shot a lot, so there was no flow to the game. So that hurts you, some.
I know you had a game plan for Harden and Embiid to try to stop them. I mean, they put up big numbers. I mean, what was the breakdown?
Yeah, no, and that's the problem, and it's not just those guys, because you Harris, and they surround him, with good shooting, and Max, he can break it down off the dribble as well, and so. But when you have two dynamic players like that, it puts a lot of pressure on you. And then the initial part is, you can take care of it, and then it's your second and third part of it that is the problem. And if they're generating speed and there's contact, there's going to be, and it's, some games it's marginal contact, it's not a foul. Some other games it is. And so that's where you have to adjust. And you have to be in early and get out early, and you have to pull your hands back, and you got to stay down on shot fakes and that sort of thing. So, I want to take a look at the film to see, what we could have done better there.
Two centers fell out. Was Nerlens available for
you? Yeah.
There were a couple of reports he's dealing with plantar fasciitis. Is he able to play through that?
Yeah, he's starting to come. We want him to get healthy. That's like the main thing right now. So he's working his way through that, and he's missed a lot of time. So he's got to get through practice and that sort of thing, and he's getting his timing back. But he's doing well right now. So I think he's getting close.
Is Taj dealing with anything?
No, just we wanted to get a look at Jericho, but we like all of them. So there'll probably be a rotation there.
What do you think of the draft, Jericho?
There you go.
Yeah, I thought the rebounding was really good. And look, Embiid's a lot to deal with. You're not guarding him individually. You have to guard him with your team. And so I think he's still learning, and I think he's going to get better in time. But there's a physicality to that's not easy to deal with. He's strong, and he's quick, and he's skilled.
And just to be clear, Nerlens is, like, when you say available, like, he is...
Yeah, he's close. He's close. I want him to get through some practices, first before we throw him back. Because at this point, what you don't want is you're in for a game, out for a game, in for a game, out for a game. So I want him to get healthy. It's been that type of year, where he's been in and out, and I'd like to get to the point where he's in, so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the New York Knicks YouTube page. You just seen it up there. You can go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube page so you can get all of the post-game interviews, press conferences, etc., etc. And, Tom Thibodeau was close to saying at this point, there's no sense in putting him out there. That's what I thought he was about to say, but
Right.
he caught himself. You know what I mean? Nothing new that we heard from Tom Thibodeau. We didn't hear anything new out there. Gavin, what's going on, man?
Everybody, salute. Sorry for the late join. I had some clients call me, so. But my biggest thing first to your point, something about the defense is I think Tibbs' defense is antiquated, but I would like us to play zone or something like a box and one with Grimes chasing whole times, but I don't think that we have. In order to play zone or like a box one, you have to have high IQ defensive players.
Sure.
And we don't have high IQ defensive players. To Ron's point, where I'm kind of in agreement, is it's a red flag to me if the stove is hot and you keep touching it and it keeps burning you, and you're saying, well, we don't have the personnel for us to adjust. And I think that's the biggest thing is Tibbs thinks that he has the same personnel as last year, and that's why he thinks his defense worked. But last year, like you said, you had Bullock and Payton who were willing defenders. Fournier is not a willing defender this year. For him in the press conference, when he talks about adjustments, it sounds like he is wanting his players to adjust in game.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like he's actually making the adjustments. He's just saying, well, you guys are saying what's going on the floor. You guys need to make the adjustments on the floor. But it doesn't sound that like there is a collective agreement as, okay, coach, what adjustments do we need to make? But like you said, when you only play one defense and you're just set in the way that you're going to play, what is there really to adjust? Because, adjustment means a change. But if you're playing the same thing, there is nothing for you to change. But I think a good defense also comes with players who are on the defensive side are high IQ and can make the adjustments themselves without somebody having to tell them.
Right. And I agree 100%. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what he's talking about when he says, you have to adjust. He's talking about how the players got to adjust on the floor. But you also said another thing. When you're playing one defense, there's not much that you're going to really be able to do to adjust. It's not. You know what I'm saying? Making the adjustment would say, well, let's go to this defense now, or let's go to that defense. If you're going to stay with the man-to-man, what are you adjusting to? I don't know who, there was someone earlier who mentioned, that other teams said that they use different schemes to cover up poor defensive players. Most of the times, those schemes involve zones. right? And putting players in a zone area where maybe the team is, the opposing team, doesn't shoot from a lot, or where the opposing team puts some of their weakest offensive players, or sometimes the zone just covers up a guy who doesn't have good lateral movement. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't think Tom Thibodeau uses enough schemes defensively. I just don't think he does.
Also, a zone would at times allow players to get some rest.
Exactly.
And not have to chase guys around so much, and then that could give them some more energy down the stretch when they're getting into their 40th, 41st minute, on the floor. So, at this point in the season, I find there to be very little harm in trying new things.
Yeah. And not to mention, the zone also helps you. It helps you on the offensive side, believe it or not, or at least in transition. Let's say that, right? Because when you're in a zone, you're already set up in areas to run lanes in transition. So when your team gets the rebound, you can get out and run in those lanes. When you're playing man to man, you don't know where you're going to end up being on the floor. You know what I mean? So sometimes running those lanes could be a little bit more challenging. And when you have a team that is a low IQ basketball team, figuring out those lanes and where to run could be difficult for them. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in the zone, you're already in those lanes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all you got to do is get out, boom, and hit those lanes after that defense is corralled and brought in. But, I guess, probably beating a dead horse here.
And, Sim, A-Train in the chat made an interesting point. He said, what happened to all of that newfound information and learned knowledge that Tibbs was getting from shadowing all these other NBA coaches like Kerr and stuff? Like, where is the stuff that he's implementing with change that he's learned? Like, he kind of settled back into his old ways once again.
I mean, that's the thing. You get new information, but you got to use that information. If you can get a book. You can buy a book all day long, but if you just put it on your shelf and sit it in the back, you may not know what's in it.
That sounds like a job interview answer. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You go to a job interview. Oh yeah. I picked up valuable experiences, lifelong lessons that I'll carry through my career.
Right.
During my time at so and so and so and so. It's like,
yeah,
and then you get there and you ain't doing none of it.
Nothing with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got that book. It's on the top shelf, collecting mad dust.
I ain't read it, but I have the book, though.
I got it. I can use it if I need it.
You got it right on the shelf.
As soon as the game tells me that I need to use that book, I'll crack it open.
Oh, there's some pretty good stuff in here.
Right, man. I should have been using this a couple months ago.
Oh, Lord.
It's.
Oh man.
It's tough.
Hey, Sim. Who we play next?
We play Philadelphia on Wednesday.
Home and home.
Oh yeah, this is that.
Home and home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Play Philadelphia on Wednesday. Caller, you live. Tell me your name and where you're from, please.
I want that one back.
Hey, what's going on, Sam? It's Marvin.
Marvin, what's going on, man?
My man, Marvin.
How you feeling?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How y'all doing, man? Hey, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but Tibbs looked a little different, man. I think he's feeling the heat, guys. My thoughts, I was on with Ron yesterday, and I was kind of tough on Tibbs, but I really felt today he kind of tried to change. But I want to say this. The most glaring issue on the team is point guard, and he still hadn't addressed it, guys. I mean, I don't get him sometimes, I mean, you playing Sims when you need a point guard. You take Taj out when you need a point guard. You're doing everything, but I'm serious. Even the game today, with a little bit of point guard play, you can get over the hump. I mean, and as far as adjustments and change, guys, can he do it? I mean, he's acting like he cannot change. He really is. Even though all this pressure is on him, he's acting like he still don't see the glaring problem, which is the point guard. And I mean, I was really on the shelf today because I felt like, the Knicks played a great game, but then at closing time, they fade.
Yeah.
But that's due to a point guard play.
I think he sees and knows. I just don't think he feels he has that person on the roster.
But Sam, when you're in a spot like this, man, you gotta play McBride. Your job is on the line. I would think it is. I mean, it's like I really agree with you.
But that's the thing. Like me personally, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't play Deuce. I'm just saying me personally, and this could be a flaw for Tibbs. If my job is on the line, I'm gonna go with what I think is the best. And he may not think Deuce gives him the best chance.
But Sims, he's losing. You gotta try something.
I get it.
Well, all right, here's the deal. If you're going to go with what you think will get the job done, and you see it hasn't been working, then you have to change.
You do, but you just may not think that you have the personality to. Because like as a coach, right? I'm gonna tell you honestly, as a coach, I'm coaching in the game, and I'm playing. And I look down my bench, and it's not going well. And I look down my bench, and when I look down my bench, I'm like, God damn, I don't got nothing that I can do.
Wait a minute, Tim. McBride is not that bad.
No, I'm not saying. No, I'm not talking about Miles. I'm just saying from a coaching perspective.
Hold up. He's not as bad as losing 14 out of the last 16 because he wasn't. It wasn't his fault.
Right. No, I get it. I know. I'm just saying from a coaching perspective, right? Like that's what happens. You look down the bench like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do.
Okay, so what do you say? Get up, Burks. Come on back.
Marvin.
Yeah,
we all have the experience of being at the court, and we hooping. And we're giving it our everything on defense to guard somebody, and they're cooking us. And they're just over there having fun, smiling, having a good time. Like they're not even really trying that hard. That's what Tyrese Maxey was doing today. Tyrese Maxey was cooking dudes
that's the defensive problem.
giving their all on defense, and he was smiling, cheesing the whole time.
And that's Tibbs' forte. Defense. What you know what, guys? I want to say this too. Bad offense leads to bad defense. You guys know that, right? Because if you're missing shots, you can't set up your defense.
Right.
And another glaring problem that is quietly not being talked about enough is Mitchell Robinson. You have to get something out of your centers, guy. You have to. I'm not bagging on him, but that's another problem that's kind of glaring, guy. But the point guard issue, it's been glaring for a long time now.
For decades.
Right.
And
Marvin.
And for him to not address it, when this first change started, that should have, and I'm not even saying McBride. Okay, let RJ run point.
I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah.
Do something.
Marvin.
You got to do something.
Marvin, we talked about this.
I love it.
We talked about this yesterday as far as like getting beat some time. But listen, what's really an indictment on Tibbs? When he feels like he doesn't have the right personnel, and then he puts in the personnel that he feels is his best, and he plays 34 minutes with 6 points and 0 assists at point guard, that is not a good look. Let me tell you something.
How much pressure do you want to put on yourself? After each game, you look in the box scores, your point guard. I haven't looked at it recently, but if you guys could, take a look at the last 4 or 5 games at the point guard played. If this is not the top of the roof and it's right at your nose in the water, I don't know what you call it. And then but I can say this, guys. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but in that press conference I just looked at, he is getting very worried. It's on him. It's weighing on him, guys. It really is. But I really believe he don't know what to do right now. It's almost like, I'm going to play Brooks. Burks. He is someone to outright say it. I'm going to play him. I'm going to play him, guys. But I mean, everybody in New York is saying McBride. I mean, come on, man. You can at least try it one game, 5 minutes, 6. Come on, man. I mean, if you give it a try and it doesn't work, you did what everybody asked. All right, now take him out and put Burks back in. That's all you got to do. He won't even. Did he play today, guys?
No, he didn't play. He didn't play.
Now, I'm gonna pose this question to you, Sam. Do you think that is right?
No, I think that there's a position open for him to play, and he should be playing. He doesn't have to start. He can come off the bench. There's only 4 guys in the bench rotation right now.
Wow.
And he should play.
Yeah. 4 or 5 minutes. Come on, man.
I get it. But listen. He knows that there's heat on his back, and as a coach, he's going because if he goes out there, I mean, I understand what you're saying, right? You can put him out there, and if he does, and if he burns, you can say, you see, that's the reason why I didn't put him out there.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I get it.
I mean, at least he could have it in the next press conference. He could at least have that.
I get it.
And I want to close by saying, I mean, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? And me and Ron were talking yesterday, and I was real heated on it. But today, I really got, because you guys, I mean, come on, man. Even the other game against Miami, you right in there. You right there. And I really believe the little coaching adjustments down the stretch could have won both of those games. And which, in what we've seen, he made no effort, almost like. I mean, and I want to say this too, guys. I believe the players are playing hard. They are. They played hard today.
I think they played hard.
Really did.
I think the players play
but
hard.
Tibbs is just like he don't. I don't understand it, guys. Now, and I heard the reference to what the defense in Minnesota now, when Tibbs was supposed to have been the guru of defense when Minnesota was there, it wasn't as good, and now it's better. I mean, he's running out of straws, guys. He really is.
Well,
he's running out of straws.
I mean, the thing about that with Minnesota, they have different players also.
Yeah, and I felt that.
Yeah, you got different players. But
what you see in New York, Sims, and I understand your situation about if you was the upper management, you sit him down and say, look, this is what I see. I'm going to give you a shot. If you can't change this, we might have to make a move. But when do you do that? Where you are now, or another 3-game losing streak, or I mean, I'm asking you, when do you do this?
Well, I mean, I'm giving him, I'm doing just like you're going to give players an exit interview, right? If I'm Leon Rose, I'm giving Tom an exit interview, at the end of the season. Even though they're probably going to be working together throughout the summer, I'm still going to have that formal exit interview where we end the season. And I can give him and say, just like when you work at a place, at the end of the year or some point in the year, you get an evaluation.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Doing the same thing. I'm going to give them an evaluation, and bam, now you got your chance. You know what I'm thinking. You know how I feel. You know what we would like to see. Let's see what you're going to do about it now. And at the same time, Tom Thibodeau gets a chance to say, this is what I need from you, front office, to support me to help with these goals.
Well, I want to add a little something to that because I really want to, and it's hard for me to get on Tibbs' side, but I have to on this one. At the beginning of the year, guys, when Fournier and Kemba was picked up, and I mean this, and I don't know this directly, but I'm pretty sure because I felt the same way when I heard that you guys had picked him up. I really believe most of us thought those were pretty good deals, considering that the defense would still be intact. The loss of the 2 players that you guys lost was underestimated on how important it was for the team, though.
That's true.
And then when you bring in 2 lesser defenders, that's kind of, I mean, within Kemba's point, he's in and out of the lineup, and then Fournier has never been considered a good defender. It was hard for Tibbs to deal with. It was hard for Tibbs to work with. And I can understand that. That's what I mean by trying to take up for him. And really, this is what I said. I don't believe, even though it's bad, I do not believe it's time to fire him because in my eyes, if I was the owner, first of all, to go through this many coaches in so short times of year if you fire him, it would bowl to the front office as being unsuccessful also, because they're not making the right decisions if they fire him.
Right.
But if you bring somebody else in, they're going to try to clean up Tibbs' mess. And if they're not doing well, then everybody's going to be like, it's time for him to go. So I really believe he needs to try to clean it up. I know it's going to be tough to deal with it, especially if you don't make much of a change.
Right.
But I really feel like you, Sims. At first, I was Sim, you remember when I called into you way earlier and I told you how stubborn he was? Well, it's showing his ugly head now. But it's too late to be so angry at him, I think. I think because he made this mess, he needs to try to clean it up. I don't believe it's fair to bring another coach in a turmoil situation of such and let that coach try to clean it up. I believe he can if he just, because he's already started. He's moved one finger, guys. He's got Sims. I mean, he's moved one finger, so he is trying to change.
Yeah, well, let's see if he can. Let's see if he moves the other one. But Marvin, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your time.
Hey, man. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Have a good one. I don't know. Tom Thibodeau is, it's got a lot to do, a lot to think about. The one thing I will say, he's not going to listen to the fans.
Thank God. Thank God.
He's not going to listen to the fans. So, when we say, everybody in New York is calling for this guy, that guy to play, he ain't listening to that. He's only going to listen to, because it falls on his back. So if he's going to get fired, he's going to get fired over mistakes that he made, not mistakes that somebody else told him to make. You know what I mean?
And son, that's what I was going to say is, Tibbs is not going to tank, and I think that he believes that putting Deuce out there is him giving in because, like I said, he feels that Burks gives him the best option. Now, when people say, but Sims is starting to play, the difference is we have a multitude of guards on this team or a wing, so even though Burks doesn't play the point guard, we can throw him in there. Minus Mitch, we don't really have anybody else. And like you said, you can't keep weighing down. You can't keep counting on Taj Gibson. So those are different scenarios. But like I said, Tibbs is just not going to give in and say, oh, I'm going to play Deuce just because that's what the fans want me to do. Because then he's going to think, okay, well, I played Deuce and we still lost. So it's like, now what do you want me to do? And I think that us as fans, we just think that Tom is just going to give in. And I think he is still trying to make the push for the play-in. And until we're mathematically officially eliminated, I think that he still continues to do what he does. And then once we are officially out of it, then I think you'll see Deuce play because at that point, it doesn't matter, if we win or lose. But he's not just going to wave the white flag to please the people of New York.
Right. The thing is, with the play-in, you'll be down to game 7 before you're mathematically eliminated, right? Or something like that. All you got to do is win a couple of games and it looks like you're there. But realistically speaking, the Hawks are 29-31. The Knicks are 11 games below 500. Yeah, it says you're only 4.5 games out, but that's a lot of games now because you need the Hawks to lose 4 and you to win 4 in order to make up those 4.5 games.
Right. And then what happens is you wind up pushing and playing the same roster and not utilizing some of these other guys because you could be, kind of taking a look at them. And then in the end, you may not make the play-in, and then you've wasted opportunities to at least see what some of these guys can give you in certain situations. I think, too many people keep thinking that like a guy like McBride is going to come in and be the savior. No, I don't think he will. And I don't think that's how you should look at it. Just look at it as give the kid some minutes to be out there. When you got a guy playing 34 minutes and giving you no assist at the point guard position, that's not a good thing. And so there's got to be a way that you can incorporate McBride in a little bit just to get his feet wet, to put him in different opportunities, just spurt minutes, 3 or 4 minutes here and there, and just to get him acclimated in a part of the system. That's it. The other thing I was going to say, because it pointed to the fact that maybe we undervalued Peyton and Bullock. We definitely did. But another way you look at how valuable a guy like Peyton is, for example, look at what's going on in Minnesota. Look at Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley plays in between 25 to 30 minutes a night. And if you look at his numbers, a lot of people would say this guy's trash. because he doesn't bring anything to them on the court as far as, but what he does mentally and how he helps them defensively is invaluable. And that's why they keep trotting him out there. And that's what we got from Peyton, and we undervalue that, and we miss it now. Because you can't tell me what Patrick Beverly's doing out there is balling, because I just looked at his numbers and he's doing nothing. But
they also extended him for another season.
Yeah, because he's a dog.
Signed an extension. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about toughness and being able to bully your way to the paint, make your free throws, and not give a damn about what the fans' slander is towards you. And Peyton had all of those qualities, and you could put him on the defensive assignment, and he could do at least a passable job night in, night out. We definitely undervalued that, man. And anybody who says different, use your eyes.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people miss out on is the little things that happen defensively from any player, or that don't happen from any player, things that you may not see from the naked eye. You know what I'm saying? Like the little step in one direction that makes the offensive player freeze and say, oh, maybe I can't go there. Let me pass it this way. Like those little type of things, the way that a player drops his feet to cut off, an opposing player from getting to the basket, the way that they position their feet on the floor to maybe allow them to go baseline or not go baseline. Like those type of little things most people don't see, but helps out a team defense when it's done correctly and from certain positions. You know what I'm saying? What they see is the 1 or 2 times a game that a player gets beat and it looks bad. But they don't see all these other little tiny things that help the team defense as a whole. And I think we missed a lot of that last year from, like a lot of fans overlooked that last year from Peyton and Reggie Bullock, but it was there. And, we're obviously missing it right now. A couple of things in the chat that I wanted to get you guys conversation pieces about. Kenneth Hatcher, thank you for the super chat. He said we should stop talking about Cam because he's already in that imaginary trade package for Donovan Mitchell. I'm not even thinking about Donovan Mitchell and whether or not he's going to be a New York Knick. When that time comes, I'll think about it. You know what I mean? But, that's not something that I'm holding my breath about. And the same thing with Zion. He said, do you guys think we are going to get Zion? He really wants to be an Apple. I'm not thinking about Zion right now either, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Whatever's going on with Zion, I'll say this. If all that's going on in New Orleans is his way to get out, then I question his character. I do. So I don't think that's the way you go about it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get out, just tell the team, I don't want to be here. I want to go someplace else. Let's figure this out. Just do it. Just man up and do it. Say it.
Public perception, Sam.
That's why I said if what he's doing is he may, everything that's going on with Zion may just be I'm not ready to play. And everyone else is making it like he's trying to get out of New Orleans and all of that stuff. But if he is doing it because he wants to get out of New Orleans, I don't think that's the way you go about doing it. You just tell your agent to tell the Pelicans, I don't want to be here. Just do it that way. Just like Cam Reddish went to Atlanta and said, can you trade me? He was quiet. Nobody really knew that he went to Atlanta to ask for that trade, and they obliged. Whether or not they put him in a situation that he wanted to be in, they obliged.
What about Ben Simmons?
What about it? I don't think he went about it the right way either. And I question his character too. I told you that a long time ago. I questioned it too.
The reason why I bring that up is because of public perception. I think you're right. I think they should go about it that way. But again, when you have these players that are changing teams and they're not comfortable in their situation, particularly after they sign a contract, I think they care about public perception. I think that's what it comes down to, and they won't. Players are less likely to go to teams and demand trades in a way where it looks like they're being arrogant about it, even though they are. But the thing is,
the organization is not going to put that out there to the public that you demanded a trade. Right? Because once they put that out there to the public, now teams is like, oh, well, damn, I'm not going to give you nothing for him because he wants to get out of there anyway. Right? So the organization's not going to say anything. They're going to be quiet about it. You know, and if you're quiet about it and your team is quiet about it, then it doesn't get out to the public. It's just, you know, you go and say, hey, I'm not happy in this situation. And I would rather you trade me because when I'm a free agent, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? Instead of doing antics. Like James Harden, you know, he went through a lot of antics in Houston. He went through a lot of, you know, I don't want to say he went through a lot of antics in Brooklyn. You know, it was a lot of people saying that he was this, that, and the third. You know, it never really came from Harden. But in Houston, he went through a lot of antics. There was no doubt about it. And you've seen it. It was in public eye.
That was blatant. That was blatant, bro.
Right, and now in Brooklyn, and now he's moving on to, you know, to his third team, you know, and will it work out for Philly? It might. You know what I'm saying? It might, but but you can't tell me that this is not showing a pattern of James Harden now.
And if they get eliminated by Brooklyn, guess who looks like a fool for that trade? Okay.
You know, so I mean,
the one thing I'll say about the Brooklyn situation is, you know, I give him some bail on that one just because, you know, there was no way he could have predicted the outcome of Kyrie Irving and the vaccine and all that. You know, he probably was like, you know what, I ain't signing up for all this. If you're not even going to get the shot to give us a chance. Now they're going to probably roll back the mandate, which is cool. And also, they let the visiting players who are not vaccinated play, so that's not really fair anyway. But that's
a whole different can of worms. That's a whole different
can of worms, right?
Yeah,
but just from the standpoint of, I thought Kyrie was going to be here and we were going to do this together. This wasn't the deal, so I'm out. That's a little bit different. But gaining all that weight and coming in like that for Houston, oh man, that was just wrong.
I mean, the way he did it in Houston was bad. It was rough. It was rough. There's no doubt about it. It was
stealing money.
You know what I mean? I'm not gonna believe that Zion is doing that though. I'm just saying, if he is, I don't think that's good character, but I'm not gonna believe right now that that's what he's doing. I'm gonna believe that he's legitimately hurt and can't play. That's what I'm gonna believe. That's what I'm gonna choose to believe until I see facts that say otherwise. That's what I'm gonna do. Take it as face value.
Well, he's also fat, Sam.
I mean,
yeah, apparently he's like 600 pounds, according to some of these memes.
But this ain't the first time. This ain't the first time it's been like that. You know, before all of this talk about him trying to do whatever to get out of New Orleans, it's not the first time it's been like that. So, you know, there may, you know, maybe there's some other issues there. You know, I mean, people are saying that he's gaining weight so that he doesn't play for New Orleans. Like, that's not one. That's just not smart for your career. So I don't believe he's doing that.
Not healthy.
Right. I don't believe he's doing that. Right. No that's way. Just not health smart. That's just dumb.
There's only two people I've known that can pull that off, and that's Luther and Janet. They're the only ones I know who can go up and down with weight. I don't know.
Right. So that just wouldn't be smart. That wouldn't be smart. So that's why I'm choosing not to believe that he's doing that.
That float was flagrant, though. They did that man wrong. They violated that boy.
Yeah.
That they did. Guys, listen, I appreciate you, Sim, as always, for allowing me to be on. Josh, Savvy, my man, you know, I forgot your name already.
Gavin.
I was about to say Duval, but it's because you're from Duval. That's why.
Mine too.
From Duval.
Yeah, my bad, bro.
Don't never get it twisted, Ron.
Yeah. You might be that dude. Duval, you know how it is. Yeah. But I got to get out of here. I got a Zoom meeting that I got to jump on at 6. But I appreciate you guys. I'll holler at you. Good show as always, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm heading out as well, so you know, perfect timing. Perfect time to close the show, man. Well,
hey, yo, I just want to give a shout out.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
I want to give a quick shout out to Kaiser Soze in the chat, bro. This man is wild. This man is wild in the chat. I just want to shout out because he said something that made me laugh. And he's talking about the number one options. He was like, Randle went back to ordinary, and D Rose became disabled. That's why we are trash.
Well, I mean, he ain't lying. But anyway, I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your time. And yeah, you know, I'm gonna try to jump on and do a shoot around tomorrow. As we all try to soak up the remainder of this season. We're gonna start draft talk soon though, and looking at prospects and all that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, there's a link at the top of your YouTube chat where you can check out my man Christian Braun, who did a breakdown on Ty Washington and how he would fit in New York. Make sure you go check it out. It's about a 5-minute read. So go ahead and check that out, ladies and gentlemen. Out of here. Be peaceful.
This is MBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Postgame reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is